Are you ready?
I'm not I'm not making no puns about the name of this cinema work.
Yeah, because it's no joke.
There's nothing to joke about. This is all serious all the time.
A serious
I know
film.
you're used to us talking about really uplifting, jokey films like Out of the Furnace and Hostiles, which are super, just funny movies.
Light matter.
easygoing films.
Yeah.
But today we're talking about a very serious film called Ready Player One
By a
Steven
very serious
Spielberg.
director.
But more importantly, big night for cinema last night.
Yeah, dude.
Adrian Brody won Best Actor.
That's right. Oh my
Am
God.
I right? That's the biggest thing that happened. No, Anora won Best Picture.
Anora won Best Director.
Anora won Best.
Best everything.
That's
Best
it.
editing. Best fucking... They did it all on Canva. How crazy.
What do you mean?
No, I'm just kidding. It was
Yeah.
like, here's all the awards for editing and directing and acting and cinematography.
Yeah,
And
he was like, I cut it all on iMovie.
I have
the free thing
the
that
student version of Adobe Illustrator.
which is the free version that came with my refurbished 2015 MacBook Air. Yeah,
indie work.
And you know what? That's for $6 million, that's what you get.
Smashed
That's the
it.
quality you get. I'm looking at you, Dune 2. How much did you cost? Like $5.5 million or more?
God damn.
Twice that easily.
Easy.
Um,
Dune 5 million.
you know what's wild? Like Dune 2 was nominated for so many technical awards, won a couple as well, which is great for a movie that felt largely forgotten for most of the year.
Yeah.
It was a good movie.
Yeah.
But like, was Denis Villeneuve like not there at all?
I mean,
Like,
that's what
he-
it fucking
he
seemed like.
Didn't seem involved.
No.
Whereas like, because he's kind of a big deal, you know.
Yeah.
But it was a night for smaller films, and that was great. That was great.
I'm honestly very surprised at how they did it. Everybody was just so confident that it might become a night for The Brutalist or a night for Timothy Chalamet.
Amelia Perez.
yeah, honestly, yeah.
Won a
and
couple
Wicked
awards,
and
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what a little twist by a little guy. Little Sean Baker. Damn.
Yeah.
Good job, Anora. Sweeping it all.
It was the best movie of the year, in my opinion.
It was a big favorite for me.
Definitely, it was that and Nosferatu I was pretty close on. But I think
okay.
Anora well-deserved Best
Yeah.
Picture. I thought it was a great film. Mikey Madison was fantastic.
Mm.
I'm reading a book right now that Mikey Madison will star in the movie adaptation of.
Yeah.
That's very good. Not actually, but she should, because it's very Anora-like.
Classic.
Which means she probably won't actually. She'll probably do something different and interesting.
Yeah.
But today we are not talking about films that win Academy Awards nor are written well. We're talking about Ready Player One.
Yeah, man.
I didn't mind a lot of this movie. And then the last half or third, I hated.
You understand where I was coming from.
But for the first little bit, I was like, I don't know if I do understand.
Yeah.
Okay, here's something that bothers me about this film, just to preface my feelings. And I feel this way about a lot of post-apocalyptic cinema and literature art. If I can't understand why your world is the way it is, it's not good post-apocalyptic work. I don't understand how Columbus, Ohio looks exactly the same. No, I'm just kidding. I don't like there's this like thing where in the voiceover where he's like, when we had the corn syrup drought, I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah,
like,
dude. Oh my God.
When the ideas are not fully fleshed out in a way that is like, oh, I can connect our time to your time in a way that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It drives me a little fucking crazy. And to spoil what I'm about to say, this is my huge problem with the Hunger Games, is like, I understand, and like, I'm being persnickety, but I understand that people can be like, oh, like it's a fantasy, blah, blah, blah. But if you're doing post-apocalypticness, you should be able to draw a straight line between societies, because post-apocalyptic literature and art and storytelling should be commenting on our society. And this movie does that.
Yeah.
But the world itself, I'm just kind of like, I don't get it. Why would this be the world that happens?
Right. Yeah.
I understand. Like,
Yeah.
it's like the world that happens if we were still all obsessed with World of Warcraft, but it came out in 2017. You know?
Oh my God. Yes. Okay. Yes.
You see what I'm saying, though?
Yeah. The incoherence. I understand. I totally get it. I think it is because Spielberg really wanted to make a case for how much we could leave reality
Yeah.
in a way that we kind of already do, right?
Yeah.
Like with VR, with AR, with social media, blah, 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 all these like, you know, fucking typical parallels of like not staying in the moment and not making the best of our lives.
And trying to leave
And
escape the real world because it's so much better in the... Yeah.
So what is the most you can push the envelope on escapism is that you entirely succumb to it.
Yeah.
You make it this ridiculous fucking economy that like dictates reality.
Okay, but we like...
Sure.
So many films have done that a
Yeah.
little better. And frankly, like, not to be a bit of a fanboy, but like, I think Spielberg is a little bit blameless in this film
Yeah.
because his direction is the best part of it. It's a lot of the scaffolding around it I find to be very weak. But that's only because I'm a huge fan of Spielberg. And the reason I'm a huge fan of Spielberg is because I'm a human and everyone likes Steven Spielberg. And you like him.
I don't rush to see a Spielberg film because I don't have like the nostalgia and the association that like you and others do.
Well, you just saw Jaws and Indiana Jones.
You know what I mean? Like I've never seen it as a kid and I didn't like grow up on his films.
What about War Horse? You don't like War Horse?
You know what? That's on me. That's on me that I didn't say War Horse first.
What about Jurassic Park 2, The Lost World?
I'm a Godzilla girl, I'll tell you that.
That's not even a fair comparison.
I'll tell you that. But yes, no, of course.
What about Saving Private Ryan?
Yeah, but that's a genre for me though. Like war, great. I'll watch any war film.
You heard it here first, folks.
War
is great. Yeah.
War in cinema only.
War
Jesus Christ.
rules. Yeah. So you're not like, but you.
I wanted to start with this is that I'm not a Spielberg.
You do acknowledge he's a good filmmaker.
I acknowledge that he's a filmmaker who relies on kind of the sappiness of the human condition. And he drills so deep into that and he rests on the laurels of that and hopes that the audience...
See, I disagree. I agree. Sorry. I agree with you that that's a big part of his filmmaking.
Yeah.
Is like his nostalgic saccharineness.
My
of
God. It's
his
relentless.
Work.
Yeah.
Well, it's not relentless. It depends on the movie, right? A lot of his movies are like, people give him shit for that, but a lot of his movies aren't like that. I would argue Saving Private Ryan, I don't think is like that. I don't think Bridge of Spies is like that. I think they have nice moments, I will say, but they're often against the background of something much more sinister. Schindler's List is another great example of that too. Jaws is another great example of that. When you're talking about E.T. and you're talking about those kind of E.T. and Hook and those kind of kiddie films, Fabelmans has a little bit of that. The Indiana Jones, the remake Indiana Jones, the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, like that kind of thing. He has a little bit of that, but what distinguishes him among many things is like, okay, so for this movie, for example, the racing scene, in the hands of a different director, I think that scene is just CGI sludge.
Sure.
In Spielberg, Spielberg is working on this like level where the racing scene is a bunch of CGI nonsense, but he's using, like we talked about with The Lion King, right? He's using this like traditional way that you can move the camera through all of that shit that you're just like, wow, this strings together so fucking well.
Yeah.
In the way that not a lot of directors can do.
Yeah.
So I think that, like, for me, when I interpret his films, I'm always like, oh, he's coasting on the fact that he is just a genius filmmaker, right? And this movie has that kind of like sappy ass ending, which doesn't work for me, but mostly because the latter half of the film just fucking sucks ass. Like, yeah,
a lot happened.
Yeah.
So, and that's why we're so keen to talk about it today, is that even though it's like mostly fucking incoherent, it's fascinating.
Well, it makes
the
sense.
approach is incredible.
The movie, the story makes sense, but
the rationale.
I guess, like, I can't buy into how the world operates.
Yeah.
In a way that, like I was saying, in that big final climactic battle with Iron Giant and the Gundam and the T-Rex and all that kind of shit, and Godzilla, actually, where there's like people dying and you're just like, well, can't you just come back alive?
Yes.
Because it's a video, like,
yeah.
Which they say at the beginning is like, yeah, you lose your levels and you lose your coins, but it's like, yeah, can't you just come back and fight again?
I think that's the closest they come to reality, right? Is that if you die in real life, it's so permanent. The closest they make it to permanence in a game is that you lose all ability.
Yeah, right. But like, okay, remember in The Matrix, like The Matrix has, have you seen it?
Yeah.
Pretty good movie, right?
Decent.
One thing I love about The Matrix is the way that they quite simply gloss over sticking points in a way that you're just kind of like, I accept that as truth.
Immediately.
So what Morpheus says to Neo is that, like, when you're plugged into the Matrix, the line he has is like, the body cannot live without the mind. And you're just like, oh, I get it.
Okay.
If your mind dies, you die.
Yeah.
In the reality.
Yeah.
And they don't really have that in this film. I don't think they substantially explain how the world functions in a way that satisfies me. Because there's so much like in this big climactic final battle, you're just kind of like, well, wouldn't it kind of be endless because you could just continuously send people back in on their little VR headset and the battle would never end? Right?
I think they spawn as new people.
I get that,
it's
but
new
like,
characters.
it just doesn't. It just starts to really fray at the edges for me.
Yeah, dude. Because fucking Spielberg is untethered in this shit.
He is.
He's so unhinged in parts where it's like, it's, first of all, cannot believe that it's a Spielberg film. If his name was nowhere if you had not read it, that it's like directed by.
It's a fascinating choice that he made to do this film.
Yeah.
Is that kind of where you're getting at?
But I'm saying the idea that he is like, oh, the central idea of this entire film is going to be literally a virtual reality that essentially like replaces our own reality. It's so like fucking Inception like in that way. The execution of it, the seeing the fucking anime guy and then like
it's not something you would think he would do.
No,
right?
but that part of it is fantastic because you forget about reality, right? You're watching an kind of a cartoon for most of it, like an anime, like a animated version of it for most of it.
Yeah.
And you're just like, yeah, this feels real.
Yeah.
Because of the movement.
Well, also, I have to say, like, what movie were we talking about where I think it was a Ridley Scott film, and I apologize, I don't remember what movie it was, but how we were talking about the special effects were especially good in this film, but it might have been Alien Covenant, but it's also because same year, right? Where you're like, there's a lot of movies that come out in the late 2010s where the CGI just looks like fucking piss and shit. Dude. But Ridley Scott is such a talented director that there's got to be some magical spice that he has where he just knows what to get out of the people the very talented artists who work on the CGI. This movie looks crazy good, and it's got to have something to do with Spielberg because so many movies at the time don't look very good. The CGI is not very good, but in this film, like a lot of it, more than I thought would actually be in CGI, was in CGI, and I was like, this is so crazily crisp and like kind of ingenious because there are so many cultural Easter eggs that certainly Spielberg, like I'm just guessing, but I assume that they were like, well, we want them all to sort of be in focus so that you can pick them out. and he fucking does it. And the CGI looks so good.
It really does.
Yeah.
It really does. It's I feel like it's like modern day, the Netflix show Love, Death, Sex, Robots.
Yeah.
It feels like you're part of it when you watch it.
Yeah.
It's like you got like glasses on and you're like in the universe.
It has like
in a way that Black Mirror.
Yeah.
And I wish this movie had more of Black Mirror's essence. And like the dystopian quality of it was
You mean you wish it made you feel terrible at the end?
I wish it did, because it was like so goofy. It was, look, man, this fucking movie is goofy as hell. It was like Spy Kids 4.
Yeah,
all right?
like it is like the kid. It's like his journey to become a trillionaire.
Come on.
And then all the slums are like, yay!
Yay!
Like it's so weird. And
this movie had like serious like, well, hello there, fellow kids vibe from you fucking Spielberg, man. You got the oldest guy to do a young people film.
Well, I don't think that's the problem. I disagree. Like I don't think the problem is like I think Spielberg actually he weights the past perfectly in this film. Like he's not too. Think of like a lot of movies these days that have like these big nostalgic moments in them and stuff where they're just kind of like, hey, fucking like they shove it in your face and they're like, this is Gandalf, like this is fucking Gandalf, and this is Marion from Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Just remember to don't forget who and you just kind of like, oh, fucking dude, like I know, can you like give a little softer touch? Spielberg does have that soft touch. I think he's like very deftly kind of being like, I don't know who all these fucking characters are. Maybe he probably knows quite a lot because he's a famous filmmaker.
Yeah.
But it's like he's probably like, I don't fucking know a lot of these shit, but I trust the people who I work with to find me the right stuff.
Yeah.
And we will do it right.
Yeah.
All of the problems in this movie are just in the story.
No,
and like in the world,
I agree.
The way that the world building kind of raises more questions than it answers.
How much control do you think Spielberg had over dialogue and beyond the physical world building, but also like what the characters say to each other?
Well,
and
not
how
a lot. Like he's the director, right? Like
got it.
Like Spielberg doesn't often write his own films. I believe he's only written a couple of his own.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's worked with some of like the greatest scripts ever written, but he's also elevated not very good scripts. But like,
that makes so much more sense now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like Spielberg, in my opinion, Robert Rodat, I think, who wrote Saving Private Ryan, underrated script, like really, really beautifully written film.
Mm-hmm.
And Robert Rodat was a playwright, so you can kind of see that in that movie, right? And Spielberg, I think, uses a lot of that to his advantage.
Yeah.
The greatest example, Bridge of Spies, is written by the Coen brothers.
Oh, I see.
Use that to your advantage. And then a lot of the time, Spielberg has been working with Tony Kushner, famous playwright, famous screenwriter. He wrote Lincoln. He wrote fucking West Side Story. He wrote The Fabelmans, I believe.
Oh my God.
Which is crazy because The Fabelmans is about Steven Spielberg, and he still brought Tony Kushner in to write it.
Right.
Although I believe Spielberg had credit on that film too.
Mm-hmm.
But Spielberg he's a director's director. He does not typically write his own scripts. But in this film, it's Ernest Cline who wrote the book, and Zach Penn who like Zach Penn has written a couple Star Trek films, I think. Zach Penn is like a talented blockbuster filmmaker writer, So I don't think Spielberg had a lot of like say over the specific aspects of the script.
Yeah.
I'm sure he had opinions about it.
Sure.
And I'm sure he made changes that were appropriate.
Totally.
To the filming to like make it, but I do truly think like I don't want to like rip on Ernest Cline, like I don't at all, but I think there's like fundamental issues with the world and the original idea, which who the fuck am I? Like he sold the script for like $6 million. So like, I don't know. It just,
well, we're the audience though.
Yeah.
We're at the receiving end of that, product. So
yeah,
equal say, right? And by no means is it a small feat. Like it is kind of a dream to watch like worlds collide with video games and movies and like fucking 80s references if you are of that age. And it's
fundamentally
tremendous.
It's fundamentally a great idea.
Yes.
I quibble with the execution, as I've said.
Yeah.
But like it's Ernest Cline, I'm almost sure that when he thought of this idea as like a novel,
Yeah.
like he had one of he must have had like a eureka moment and just went home and wrote like 30,000 words in a night because he was like, this is such a good idea. Because it's a great idea. It's a really great idea.
And that's my only thought with watching this movie is that I'm not a big fan, but this could have been so much worse.
Absolutely.
And it's like kind of flawless in like it's the visual treatment.
Like I said, it's the best you can do with a fundamentally flawed idea. I think.
Right.
Yeah. Or a fundamentally flawed storytelling of a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
But you're like, that's the thing. Something I was thinking that in the hands of like another blockbuster filmmaker.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have anything against him, but like J.J. Abrams or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you could have, like, Spielberg truly elevates this product.
Michael Bay.
I mean, with Michael Bay, it would just be something else.
But like you remember Transformers 1?
Oh, do I?
How fucking crazy is the CG on that thing?
Yeah, it's amazing.
And if he had like just like unleash all the fucking money to like here's rights to books and movies and pop culture
but
reference
like would
and
Michael
games.
Bay also indulge the crappiness of the story in a way that Spielberg might not, right? Like Spielberg might the hope is that when you're directing a film, as far as I know, unless I mean, I'm sure some directors might disagree or some writers might disagree, but it's like you want to have a cogent working relationship between the writer and the director, and things will come up on set where you're just like, we can't shoot this, or this scene isn't working.
Yeah.
We need more lines. We need different lines. We need other shit. And like the writing on set does happen. You know, famously, they wrote an entire Star Wars film on set, and that's why it turned out that way. But like, you know, but would Michael Bay indulge? Because Michael Bay has proven himself to not have the greatest instincts when it comes to like
collaborator.
But also working with other people's scripts.
Oh man,
you know, and Spielberg does have good instincts with that. So I don't know, like,
yeah, dude. No, I mean it's there. I'm just so much of it didn't feel like a Spielberg film that I feel like all the hype it did get is because of the name power.
Honestly, after the big racing set piece is over and they find the first key,
it
starts to feel a little drab compared to like I truly think that racing sequence is like you can see the bravura of his work, whereas the rest of it, I really wasn't that interested in. Yeah, like it just stopped being like a tour de force in the terms of direction. It just was like a really good-looking CGI fuckfest. But
like great fucking speed, like so kinetic. It was great. Like there's a lot of energy in the first part of that first third of it, and also like the final fight scene is also pretty. There's so much momentum. Like lots happens, lots of the same shit keeps happening. Oh, okay, we get it. The bad guys keep getting wiped out because a fucking huge robot shows up and kills 50 people. But they keep showing that shit.
And also, like,
4 times.
But I prefer that to the fact that, like, after that giant battle sequence, there's still 30 minutes left in the movie.
Fuck me, right? Because there's a fucking car chase for some reason.
There's a couple things that drove me so insane in the last little bit. First off, being the fucking Olivia Cook, right? Yeah, she gets put in prison, and then there's just a door handle to open the prison.
They're like, here's a prison, but the key is literally in your hand.
It's like, oh,
don't do nothing crazy.
It's like, what happened to this prisoner? Oh, she escaped. It's like, oh, we shouldn't have put the key in the fucking cell.
Who could have predicted this?
Yeah.
Who could have predicted this?
It's like a creepy trust game where they're just like, listen, you're in jail, but the key is just above your head.
Look,
but we trust you to not escape.
You think that's unreasonable? I'll tell you what's fucking unbelievable about this movie, about fucking video games, is that you're telling me most of these dudes are not running around like big tittied goth girlfriends.
Yeah.
They're all just like, yeah, I'm gonna be a huge frogman. Get out of here, bro.
Like
where are your tits?
Lena Waithe is the only one who looks different than she looks in real life. And she's this big creepy ogre thing.
Yeah.
And like Ty Sheridan, he should be a big tittied goth chick. Yeah.
I can't even think of one hot girl character in this entire movie. They're all just like fucking alien robot.
Ben Mendelsohn's hench lady is pretty hot.
Who is a lady in real life.
Yeah, true.
So
Yeah.
why are the dudes?
Oh, sorry. Ben Mendelsohn is really hot.
Ben Mendel's like, I am Prince of Darkness.
He has
beautiful.
fake, beautiful teeth.
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
And then, so that the prison escape is just like, is such a fucking annoying plot contrivance.
Yeah.
Like,
dude.
how do you get out of prison? I don't know. Maybe the key's in the ring. Like, it's so fucking dumb. It's
man.
so dumb.
Yeah.
And then there's all this other, like, what really set me off was when he got the extra life. That, I thought that was,
Oh my God.
that was
Definition of an
horse
ex
shit.
machina,
Yeah.
dude. Like, yeah.
Like-
Thank you.
I kind of, okay, I can understand it from like a writing perspective where you're like, well, he does earn it, right? He solves the puzzle. The robot, Simon Pegg in disguise, gives him the coin, and the coin has the extra life. But really?
And you were like, when the fuck did he get this coin?
Yeah.
Which happened in the first third of the film, where the robot is like, yeah, here you go. Just, you want to hold on to that.
And it's just like a little too convenient.
Yeah.
And the fact is too is that like it's sort of a quasi coincidence that he even gets the coin itself, because he gives it to Olivia Cooke and she gives it back to him.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of like, oh, well, that's convenient that he happened to fucking keep it and have it on him.
Come on, man.
You know,
What
like
if she took it?
much like the jail cell escaping the jail cell. You're just kind of like, oh, that's a really convenient way to, move this plot forward.
Games do that, though.
Games do it, yes, but this is not a game.
I know, but it is.
And I mean this podcast.
Oh, right.
I mean, this is not a game.
We don't settle
Yeah.
for solutions. This is hard life. But I see it. I see how games kind of give you a way out. Because if they see you
Yes.
fight the same monster 400 times and you keep losing 400 times, they're like,
Okay, now you're just ripping on my Dark Souls
I'm
record.
sorry, my God. Take the key and get out of your own prison.
Listen, if you're unsatisfied with this marriage, you can just get out. I'm trying to kill demons in the Dark Souls universe.
It's hard out there for you,
Yeah.
babe. I
But,
feel it. I feel it.
like, I guess it's interesting you say that, because I guess I do understand that it's like, it's a video game conceit to have an extra life. I get that.
Or a way out, essentially.
Yeah.
If the game sees that you've struggled too many times, it needs you to progress.
Yeah.
So it manufactures a way for
True.
you.
Yeah.
But the whole point of them resting their like economy and life and all of this in the virtual reality.
Well, that is just another whole other kettle of fish. Like
Why is the virtual reality making it easy for you at all?
what boggles my mind is that I still don't understand, like, even though he spends 20 minutes explaining, I still don't understand what is valuable about the Oasis besides the escapism. But then Ben Mendelsohn has dedicated his entire, like, meta style company towards completing this challenge, and he can't do it to gain ownership of a video game company. But I'm like, what we know now about tech, you're just kind of like, well, how does this game company make any money? Because it seems to be free.
And all their servers are like always online.
And how do they maintain anything? Because all of the founders are dead. Well, one founder is dead. Simon Pegg has like disappeared. So how do they like actually? How does this all work?
I also, and this is, I think I have fundamentally misunderstood this world. How do you buy groceries to eat?
Well, exactly.
Where does money come
how
from?
How do you live?
Yeah.
At all. And I think that's a problem. That's like something that struck me in that being like, really, how does this world relate to our world at all? Except for one time we used to play World of Warcraft a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude.
And
like
this movie is simultaneously celebrating it and critiquing it, which is fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like, it just I have a hard time parsing what makes sense about this film.
I wonder if it's like, like EVE Online, where or any game that allows for kind of gambling.
Well, EVE Online has like its own economy that is formed,
but like it starts with real money, and then it can, multiply, and then you are able to take out more money than you put in.
Yeah,
Maybe that's how this world works.
maybe.
You level up, here's a fucking gold coin. Great. Now you can eat bread for a week or something.
Yeah, like there's, but I guess it's not fundamentally explained.
No,
like,
they don't explain any of that shit.
Like T.J. Miller's character, IROC,
yeah.
right? When he dies, he explodes into like a mountain of coins
Yeah.
because he's like a level 99 or whatever, and he has all these artifacts and stuff. But you're just kind of like, how does that translate to real world value? And as you said, how do you buy groceries? How do you use that value in the real world?
Maybe like
because besides Ben Mendelsohn, everyone else lives in a trailer park that's stacked on top of a trailer park, and that's it. Like
I think it goes to your bank account. I think like you buy your like avatar, and then you have to like put in your credit card shit. I'm sure there's like a fucking mechanic to like, in-game purchase that translates to
it's
real
so
money.
funny because I just bought NBA 2K and I've never played an NBA 2K game.
Yeah.
And playing like the online mode is so overwhelming but it's almost like the Oasis.
Yeah.
In that it's like, because like you have a mode in that game, excuse me if I could talk about video games, we have a mode in that game that's called like My Career, where you play just one guy who's like building his like dynasty as like, you're like, I want to be the next Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
But it's become so weirdly like corrupted that it has almost, besides actually playing basketball, it has no resemblance to what it would be like to be an NBA player at all. It's just a weird RPG where you play basketball games. Yeah. And it's very strange like that. And speaking of that, like 2K, the company, who are like, as all video game companies are like, we don't make money, so we have to make it some way. You can like buy coins to make your, like buy with real currency.
Yeah.
Coins to make your character better, which
God.
seems like such the antithesis to playing a video game.
Of course.
But it's also the way that like capital has infected video games in a lot of ways,
Yes.
right? Like that's present in a lot of video games. It's not just 2K who's into it, but it's funny because I've been playing it and just being like, this is like the Oasis itself.
Wait, like it's like in-app purchase, but it's your entire life.
Yeah.
Every decision, everything you ever do. And so it's better for you to spend 12 hours of your day in this game escaping reality so you can make money to eat bread.
Yeah, it's weird though, like, because like in the world we live in now, it's like you can spend real money on video game shit, but that can't translate back out into like, like money in the real world.
It does in EVE Online.
In EVE Online, it
right?
can.
So
yes.
let's say the same principle applies to Ready Player One. They do it in the Oasis. They get some money back. And because of how everyone in that universe is doing it, there is no real job. Yeah. There's no factories. There's no doctors. I don't know. Maybe doctors are in the game. Fucking, they gotta eat somewhere. Like, I don't know, man. It's goofy as hell. And
honestly, like, it sounds so nerdy of me to like harp on this point, but like, I appreciate the detail of being able to recognize your world and the world of a futuristic sci-fi.
Yeah.
And kind of like even questions that are like, wait, how does this economy work? Like, what are you doing? Like, this was my big fundamental problem with the Hunger Games was I was like, what good is it to anyone to murder 20 kids? Just for entertainment? And like, it would be nice if the writer was like, well, they get tons of ad revenue. Then I'd be like, great, I understand that. I understand, because that happens in the real world. But like, sometimes I really stick on those points with futuristic kind of stuff. Yeah. Content.
I'll tell you something nerdy.
All right.
I did my postgraduate dissertation on EVE Online's gambling economy.
This is why you know so much about it.
That's why it never leaves my mind.
Yeah.
Because I can't fathom how, as a peoples, we've managed to translate imaginary entertainment money into real money.
Well, it's
all money's imaginary, I guess.
Can I draw an example, like a counter example, or a parallel example to that, which I can relate to? Something I've always been fascinated with is Diablo 2, the video game. Oh. Now, you wouldn't think it, but Diablo 2 has a fluctuating economy and has for its whole fucking existence, because it's been around since 1999.
Oh shit.
One thing that's fascinating about Diablo 2 is that they would constantly release patches for the game, right? So patches would change the balance of the game. And as the game changed, so did what was valuable per item. So for a while, it was a certain item you could like, what you would do when you played online was you could see people being like, I'm going to trade 6 of this item for this piece of other item.
Yeah.
And that was like what that was worth.
Yeah.
And now it's something different where they're like 1 of this for 1 of these. And it has this like really fascinating, when you play it a lot, especially when you play online, you can be like, okay, so I found this piece of item in game and I want something better, or it has no use to me, but I know what it's worth, so I can trade it for this, and then I can trade that for this. And like it's
like perceived value.
Exactly.
Right.
But also the value, because now Diablo 2 is so old, but it's like recently had a revival.
Wow.
The value is now pretty set in stone. But I've always found it really fascinating the way that those values kind of shift, because there are some items in that game that are like, they're literally like rarer than like dying in a plane crash to find. And so it's like, you know, you could, it's so fascinating to me to be like,
you hunt and hunt and hunt,
Yeah.
and then you just may not
and
get it.
And it's totally random, and it's kind of like,
Wow.
it just like, if you get lucky, basically. But I've always found that idea of like, creating these economies over time in a virtual space is pretty fascinating. Yeah. I agree with you.
I get why those 3 keys in Ready Player One is like the most exciting part, because there's no rules in the game.
But also,
it's all
like,
from the creator's imagination.
the
of
3
where
keys end up translating to real world value in that they own the video game company. Which is,
Look, man,
yeah,
that guy was like the guy who made the game, Halliday or whatever. Halliday.
Yeah. He wasn't the most astute businessman, I
Look,
think. Yeah.
he was like, yeah, she asked me out to dance, and I was like, let's watch a movie. So that, you know, my guy, he's got priorities that are different.
Can I ask a question? How much do you think this inspired Mark Zuckerberg to create the metaverse? Which is going great.
I don't think this inspired Mark Zuckerberg. I think he saw one of the most jarring episodes of Black Mirror, and he was like, I could do that.
Are you I think this movie was like, Mark Zuckerberg was like, well, if I create a nice world, I could be the god there.
Yeah, but I don't think something as positive and sweet as this did it. I think something
Congresswoman,
negative.
I believe that. My metaverse will be a place where you can spend time well, and that will introduce a lot of masculine energy to it.
Oh my God.
And then people will be really fun.
Mr. Zuckerberg, why is your sweat blue?
It's because I've been deer hunting with Joe Rogan.
Oh my God. Alpha brain.
I carried a whole deer on my back.
Yeah.
And I carried Joe on top of that deer
Hell
after
yeah.
Joe rolled his ankle.
He's such a little athlete.
Look, hold on.
Athlete.
Joe may be short, but he's also 7 feet wide. So,
yeah, he's a girthy
careful,
fella.
yeah.
Not with that, Joe.
So, yeah, like it, but it does kind of like, it makes me think of,
Yeah.
this is a movie that it has that aspirational kind of thing to it where it's like, what if a video game was like this, you know? But it's also at the end, the lesson is like, hey, maybe take a little time off shooting hoops with your buddies,
You know?
and smooch your girlfriend
Smooch your girlfriend a little bit.
with her birthmark on her eye. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. She fucking, man, Olivia Cook brings so much like charm and like
I love Olivia Cook. she's a fantastic
she's like
actress.
the saving grace of
Yeah.
so much of this film.
Yeah.
It's great. I'm happy she was in it.
I think she does. The like, it's hard to gauge mocap performances
yeah.
and be like, wow, that person is so good at motion capture.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard, but like, I really thought she fit really well. And
She
frankly,
nailed it.
Ty Sheridan, who was not doing like, he was not a great actor at this
Oh my
time,
God.
but he's been in better shit that I liked him in. But when he was like
Mm.
younger, he was a little bit kind of like, you know, like I was
Yeah.
like, hey, like fucking call me when Miles Teller shows up. Like,
I
it's-
know, dude.
but
yeah,
I think
yeah.
he's pretty good when he's mocapped in this film.
Yes, I 100% agree. Every time his real face shows up,
The
I want to turn the TV off.
yeah, he's okay. Like,
Look, like every time he opens his mouth, deliver a piece of dialogue, whatever illusion this world has created and sucked me into in its VR reality, I'm snapped the fuck right out of it every time he talks.
okay, here's the thing. So Ty Sheridan, he's better now as an older actor, right? And I will give you 2 examples. But these 2 examples take advantage of what Ty Sheridan is good at. And he's good at not being a very emotional character. The Card Counter and The Order. Ty Sheridan is a bit of a little stoic kind of guy.
Oh, yeah, dude.
But when he's this younger dude,
yeah.
I don't quite think he has it in him to be the kind of precocious teen that they need in this film. They need a Gabriel LaBelle in this movie.
My God, yes. But he's
Gabriel
so ahead of his
LaBelle
time.
was 7 years old when this came out or something.
Yeah.
But
no, that's fair. That's fair.
But Ty Sheridan, I thought I really liked him in The Card Counter. I really liked him in The Order. But they're using him for what he's good at.
I agree. And like, he's not utilized to his potential in this. And the dialogue does no fucking service.
I don't think
at
anyone knew what his potential was.
They got like, he says things like, oh, a fanboy knows a hater. And then you're like, oh, I guess I'll kill myself. What is going I can't. I'm like 2.5 hours into this film.
I killed myself.
And it's still going.
But when he's mocapped, they can take advantage of his kind of his lack of expression.
Yes.
And
of his like the opposite of his face.
And when you just have his voice, he's delivering. I think he's totally fine.
Yeah.
Olivia Cooke, I think, has always been a really fantastic actress.
A gem.
I believe it was this year that Me and Earl and the Dying Girl came out, or it was just previous to this movie, and she's so fucking good in that.
Yeah, dude.
She's in House of the Dragon, which I don't like, but like
she's great.
Always been a reliable actress.
Yeah.
I gotta say, fucking like TJ Miller is like one of the better parts.
TJ Miller's so good in this.
Like,
who'd have thought? Who'd have thought?
But TJ Miller has done so many voice performances in his life that it's like he's quite good at it, and it's actually rarer. Well, it's rare to see him on television anyway now, but it's rarer to see him live action than it is to see him doing a voice performance.
But TJ Miller always plays TJ Miller.
Yeah.
He's doing a TJ Miller in this as well.
And I think at this time he was like a lot bigger, and people were hiring for him for that strength, and they were like, yeah, that's fine to do that. Yeah.
There's so much of the story hinges on getting access to a very important part of the Oasis. And all of this is like, if you are this head of this giant dystopian fucking conglomerate and you get to like rest into a machine that transports you into another world, and you get to access all the gold and all the real economy and everything, just make sure you have your password on a post-it and you stick it like super obviously on the chair that you're sitting in.
Speaking of plot contrivances,
make sure you do that.
Yeah. You would think by that time they have more secure, like, I don't know, face scanning stuff or whatever, because they have the VR shield on their, like, yeah. It's silly. It's
you telling me Spielberg didn't fucking cash that shit?
It's another thing where you're just kind of like, well, that's a great little, that's like, it's just too easy, But
can we excuse that kind of stuff? Is it material from the book?
Well, okay.
Is it just something that they can't get rid of?
Here's the thing, is like, you can excuse it, but with a caveat. So I think it was like Craig Mazin, the guy, he wrote Chernobyl, and he's doing The Last of Us.
Yeah.
I remember listening to the Script Notes pod, and they were talking about coincidences and things like that. And one of this like really, he's a fucking incredible writer, and he's very smart.
Yes.
And one of the things he said was, it's fine to, if a coincidence puts your character into trouble, but it's not fine if that's what gets them out of trouble.
Yeah, dude.
And in this movie, it happens 3 or 4 times.
Oh, nothing but.
And like,
yeah,
like it's so like here's an example that I always think, whenever I think of what he just said, I always think of this perfect example. And they might have said it on that episode in Pulp Fiction. You've seen it, right?
Oh yeah,
pretty good movie, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
This Quentin Tarantino does a good job.
Quentin Tarantino. So Butch, Bruce Willis's character, goes back to his apartment to get his watch, kills John Travolta. He's driving down the street, right at the crosswalk. Who does he see? Marcellus Wallace.
Yeah.
major coincidence.
Yeah.
They're in Los Angeles. Maybe Marcellus Wallace was in the neighborhood. That could make sense. But it's a huge coincidence, right? And it puts Bruce Willis out of the frying pan and into the fire, kind of. And that's okay. But like, to get them out of trouble or to solve a problem, it can get a little fucking like, oh, fuck off. Like, that's so frustrating.
Yeah, dude.
And like I said, with the prison escape and the one life, the extra life, 3 of those in one film is like a little bit like, okay, that's a little, yeah.
But then they have the grace of it being a video game film where we could be like, yeah, there's always a way out in a video game.
Yeah, and also Ben Mendelsohn, to be fair, his characteristic is kind of like, this guy doesn't know shit about video games. That's what makes him the antagonist, right? Is that he's like, he doesn't know the love of the virtual world that Ty Sheridan knows.
No, because Ben Mendelsohn's character is like, I'm going to take this real gun to go shoot a child. So I'll allow it.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't know enough about
Hold on,
video
is that
games.
an evil thing to do? Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to go to this dirty, dirty slum with my gun, and then I'm going to be like, listen here, baby child. You put this game down or else. That's great.
You get off your World
That
of
is
Warcraft.
the most fucking real part of the movie, man.
Yeah.
Because I've wanted to do that several times. Several. My
Yeah.
God. I bring a gun to a knife fight.
Shit.
Yeah, I'm about that
Do
life.
you want to talk about the IP?
So, yeah, they reference all these movies, and we talked about it while we were watching it.
Yeah.
How did they afford it?
Okay. I found this actually very fascinating. So they obviously have this copyright, blah, blah, blah. They have all these characters. A lot of them are from WB, who released the film. So it's like, hey, we will do this for Steven Spielberg. We own them. Fucking have at it.
Yeah.
This was the fucking Space Jam 2 before Space Jam 2, basic. But, okay, so Ernest Cline writes this novel, huge hit. Before the novel comes out, he sells it as a movie. Because, like I said, it's a great idea. He gets to writing the screenplay. It's kind of in development hell, I would say, for a couple of years. Because it was written in 2011, the book, and movie comes out in 2017. So maybe not development hell, but it took a while to get going. He wrote the script. I believe he wrote the initial draft of it. And like he said, he was like, there's some things in the book that just aren't visually engaging, which I wrote. So Dungeons and Dragons, someone playing Pac-Man, they're just not exciting for a film. So I had to change a bunch of them for the script. And he wrote a script that was actually, because he was so worried about the IP infringement, he wrote a script that was completely bereft of all of that, which is very strange to think about what that would seem like, because he was like, I can't use all this shit in a film.
Totally.
So he wrote just the bare bones story version of it. And then Steven Spielberg was like, I'm actually interested in making this film.
Huh.
And he was like, why don't you put all that shit back in? And Ernest Cline was like, well, what about, breaking the law? And Steven Spielberg was like, bitch, I'm Steven Spielberg. I can get whatever I want.
Yeah.
So he wrote another draft of it. And I believe then Zach Penn came in and rewrote it or whatever. I don't know how that all shook out. Before they went even into pre-production on the film, but it was like greenlit to go, Steven Spielberg's producer started working on getting IP, basically.
Okay.
Before the film even started anything. What they were like, start working on getting all of this IP, because you have to figure out. Yeah. So that's how they did it, essentially. It's like they just negotiated with all of these companies to try and get this everything that they could get.
Yeah.
And Spielberg said that they got about 80% of what they wanted. They had a big wish list, and they got about 80%, and then they worked around what they could get.
Okay.
And again, a lot of it owned by WB, Batman, Superman, all that shit.
Right.
But the weird one was that in also The Shining, owned by WB. The weird one though was that in the book there's an extended sequence about Blade Runner, apparently.
Oh, interesting.
Which they wanted to get, but the same year Blade Runner 2049 was coming out.
Oh.
And weirdly, Warner Bros. Released both of these films, Ready Player One and Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah.
But some other company, Alcyon or something, I don't know what, they own the actual rights to Blade Runner. And they were like, we don't want it to conflict. And we don't know if Ready Player One will be commercially positive towards Blade Runner 2049.
Oh man, that's such a cop out. What a missed opportunity.
Can I just say, in Blade Runner's defense, they are so different films. Like they're tonally just completely different movies.
Mm-hmm.
And also Villeneuve had a very specific vision for Blade Runner that if you see Blade Runner in a huge summer blockbuster in a way, and then your expectations might be tarred when you see Blade Runner in October, you know?
Yeah.
And that I understand. Yeah.
But like, imagine not wanting your film referenced in a Spielberg film.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Is like I also can understand where it's like, well, yeah, but people will get hyped for Blade Runner.
Yeah, bro. What?
Yeah.
Like from just a pure business perspective, which is all they fucking do anyway, is why would you not want, even if it's negative publicity for your film, because it puts butts in seats.
What do you think of the Shining sequence?
I'm about that life.
Yeah,
I love it. I love movies that reference other movies.
Because it was like
I never hate it.
It was apparently controversial when it came out.
Well, yeah, because fans are famously super cool about things they love.
Yeah, totally normal.
Showing up in other things.
Yeah.
But I love that shit. I do. If they did it for Harry Potter, I'd be like, well, how cool that they brought fucking Hermione out as a mental, stabby lady or something.
Yeah, which is who she is.
She is. She's pretty horror-inducing, even in Harry Potter.
Yeah,
so.
like I didn't like it, but I didn't hate it either. Like
What didn't you like about it?
Oh, I just didn't care for it. I'm not saying like I wasn't like, wow, this is so cool, or oh, this is horrible. Like I didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
But like I love The Shining because I'm a human, and everyone who's seen it loves it.
You're not mad at it, right?
No, I like we've talked about it before, but I don't understand people who do get mad at it because I'm still like, yeah, well, you could go watch The Shining if you're so obsessed with it. Like it still exists. You know?
Yeah.
Kubrick didn't like die with it.
It doesn't take away from how you experienced Shining.
No, at all. And I don't get people who get like, and the thing is too is like, only a mere 2 years later, they're making a fucking sequel to The Shining. They make Doctor Sleep, and I didn't like Doctor Sleep, but I wasn't like, oh, they tarnished The Shining. I'm like, no, The Shining is still a good movie.
Come on.
Yeah. So
if anything, you should be mad at the multiple Duran Duran references. Who is this for?
Yeah.
None of these people are alive.
Yeah.
Anyway, my God.
But yeah, like it's just like a cavalcade of all that shit, and I don't really care. Like I've never cared.
Yeah,
like I don't know.
And not one Shrek reference. Maybe it's not Warner
It's
Brothers.
weird because it is owned by DreamWorks.
Oh, is it fucking? Look, what's up?
And DreamWorks.
What's up?
DreamWorks, I thought had like some relation to Spielberg. Maybe with WB. I don't know. Needless to say, the capper on all of the how did they get the IP, it was complicated.
Yeah.
I have to guess. I'm not an expert. Probably a lot of emailing.
The admin.
There's probably
on
a
that
lot
thing?
of assistants who are making schedules for meetings and
the
shit.
Gantt chart to get all that shit done.
Yeah, but
so many chalkboards,
so many Gants,
so many Gants.
I have a strong feeling that Hollywood doesn't run on Gantt charts, actually. But
they're super. It's actually Asana. They're real agile about it.
I don't think they do that either.
They got a methodology.
Yeah. They maybe they try to rein Doug Lyman in on that, but he's like, no, I'm already in Iraq.
I know they're exclusively spreadsheet. I know it. Disgusting.
It's interesting when you learn a lot about, I mean, our friend of the pod who has worked on Hollywood productions can tell you, but like when you learn a lot of how Hollywood does things, you're kind of like, wow, they're so unorganized compared to a normal place. But I mean, I think that's the war of art, I guess, as they might say.
Hey.
Do you want to talk about the plot in this?
No, because
Can we talk about it briefly?
Condense it, yeah.
Yeah, so they live in Columbus, which hasn't changed at all. It looks the same.
Present-day Columbus.
Ty Sheridan, and the Oasis is this big fucking virtual world that has all these different... It's every video game ever that you could ever want in any way.
It's Overwatch.
Not really. But the owner... who died, the founder a long time ago, he died. He said, I hid these 3 keys. If you get all the 3 keys and you complete the puzzle, you can own the company and become a trillionaire, basically. And Ty Sheridan and his motley crew of kids do.
Motley crew of youths.
Of youths. And,
written by...
And Lena Waithe. Yeah. They do
yeah,
so.
Dude.
They do it, yeah. That's what the
and
story
they do
is.
it. Yeah, because it's about the friends you made all along.
And that is
Fucking hell. So yeah, which is like a big part of the film is like it's not about winning the game. It's about just continuing to play it.
Well, there's something...
And that can be said for Bitcoin.
There's
So
something kind of
what
like...
the fuck?
Okay, so Ty Sheridan's character is like obsessed with the Oasis when the movie starts, right?
Yeah.
And then there's something like kind of insidious about the fact that it's like, yeah, and then after I became the richest man on earth, I was like, maybe I could take a pause every once in a while and bang my hot girlfriend. Like, it's like, what? What are you like? That's the lesson. It's like the lesson is money buys happiness.
You
Like,
don't know about the 400 pages of the book where it's just talking about him jerking it. Like he's like, once I'm in the Oasis, and
it's unfortunate that the movie's rated PG-13. Because if it was rated R, if this movie needs to be remade by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, like just an R-rated.
I'll
Ready
tell you who
Player
it needs to
One.
be
Yeah.
remade by Nicholas Winding Refn. He needs to put
No.
some red and blue on that shit.
I don't
And
think
get
that would.
real-
No. I don't think he's ever worked with CGI in his life. Yeah,
Yeah, it would just not be CGI.
No.
it would just be people in weird
only
helmets.
$6 million to make Ready
Yeah.
Player One. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it would be like a John Carpenter film.
Yeah, man. When you pitched it, you were like, "Hey, do you want to watch Ready Player One?"
You were not.
I said,
enthusiastic.
"Absolutely fucking
Yeah.
not." I had to do it one time, and I couldn't manage to finish it. And I have this visceral like hatred for as like a youth having watched it.
Yeah, like I said, you were 27, but
Hey, don't
go on.
age me.
Yeah.
Cut that shit out. But now I'm glad I watched it, but I'm not gonna watch it again.
it's a film that's much more interesting to talk about, as you can see,
Yeah.
than it is to watch. Honestly.
A
Yeah.
rager, baby.
But like the problem is like unlike other things that are interesting, it's just like not fun to watch really, and it might be like one of Spielberg's worst films. Like it's unfortunate. Like
there's
it's
a few
tough.
in that list, sure.
Yeah, Schindler's List and like
Real,
it's such a bummer.
real
you
comedy
know?
fest,
Yeah.
that one. This is a movie. It's worth watching if you have like your friends in the room, which can be said for a lot of films. But like if you have to endure like fucking one or two pop culture references, it's worth doing it with more people in the room and can
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
be like,
joke's on you because I don't really have friends, nor do I watch films with them. But it's because
Yeah.
I'm busy playing 2K.
it's because you're in the Oasis all the time,
playing
babe.
fucking NBA 2K.
Snap out.
Being like, how do I start for the Orlando Magic?
How do I
Yeah.
get my money in my bank from this coin in the game?
Yeah, it's not
It's
great.
not a knee slapper, I'll tell you that much.
No, not like Bridge of Spies. That shit had me rolling.
Oh, Spielberg.
It's pretty good, right? You still haven't seen The Fablemans.
No, I still haven't. That's how I feel about
It's
it.
good.
Yeah.
Fablemans good.
Fablemans. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, watch it. Yeah. Yeah, can we wrap this up? Watch this movie. See what you think.
Yeah. Watch it with multiple people.
If you have multiple people, if you don't, you're a loser.
Oh my God, babe. Don't attack them. They're just in a different world.
Yeah.
The
Just in
virtual world.
Oasis. All right. Thank you for listening, everybody.
It's been the low ceiling.
Has been the low ceiling. Congratulations, Sean Baker, for winning an Academy Award. 4 Academy Awards.
Hell yeah.
And then someone else won another one.
Incredible.
Mikey, what is her name?
What's your face?
I don't know.
All of them, they
The
all got it.
titular character.
Annoying.
Yeah, that's the name. Thank you again.
Bye.
Bye.